Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today, I have a very special episode, and I recorded with John Haggerty of GoingWell.org. And these young gentlemen have created an organization to help others who have a cancer diagnosis. So I'll tell you the story. I don't know exactly how they found out who I am or what my background was or anything like that, but they got in touch with me. And this is where I'm a big believer that you've got to get back. So this young man, I think he was quite young. He had a very, very difficult cancer diagnosis. He was like 20 something. You're going to hear the story. I would love for you to listen to this entire podcast recording. Definitely share it because these young men are doing such good things. And they've created an organization called GoingWell.org. I want you to listen. I'm not going to talk much about it here because I'd love for you to listen to the entire podcast. But I think it's a good time for me to talk about my why and how things began. So, this is actually going to be a little bit of a longer preamble. My daughter, at the age of 5, was diagnosed with a soft tissue sarcoma. So, what it was one night, and I still remember exactly when it was the end of July. I even have the date. I was giving her tickles under the arm. How do you still get emotional? So, this was back in 2010. And I felt something under her arm. And I'm like, huh, that's really weird. Like, what is that? And I took her to the doctor that following Monday. And the doctor said, that is an odd little bump. Maybe we should check it out. They did an ultrasound pretty quickly. Now, remember, it's in the soft tissue. But what was really, really weird, and I remembered that her oncologist explained this to us, and I didn't know this. But when a tumor is malignant, when you stretch the area, it's like it has arms and legs that are hanging on. So it's not movable under the skin. So she would lift her arm up and it was like everything tightened and the mass, which was probably about, I don't know, probably about 2.5 centimeters, like an inch, not even. It didn't move under the skin and it was kind of blue. And immediately I thought, okay, that's weird. It's blue. And if you put logic in with this, you would say, okay, blue must mean there's blood supply. And that's the big thing with malignancies is that there is a blood supply. So the process with my daughter was very tedious. Nobody wanted to do a biopsy on a 5-year-old child. And we were actually, and I will tell you that since then I had left, after that, I should say, I left our family physician. Not only did he not advocate for her, but he also didn't advocate for me as I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer 1 year after. And when I say advocate, it's more of just not being there. I think that general physicians should be your best health advocate. You can't expect them to know everything. But if they don't advocate for your best health, then I say move on. So what happened was she was referred to McMaster Children's Hospital in Hamilton, and it was a 6-month wait just for an initial consultation. This is going back in 2010. And I called the assistant, asked to be put on a waiting list, little tip there. And she said, sure, she can put on a waiting list. And I said, is there any way to rush this? And she said, no, not unless your general physician indicates that this is a sense of emergency. So he wouldn't advocate for my 5-year-old child because his ego said it was nothing. We happen to have a good friend from childhood, my husband's friend, who's a general surgeon. He said he would do a biopsy on her, which he did almost immediately, got her in right away, did the biopsy. It was sent away and it came back inconclusive initially. And then we had to wait longer and it came back as plexiform fibrohistiocytic tumor, an intermediate malignancy tumor. That's very common in younger kids or youth, teens, young adults. It is classified as a soft tissue sarcoma. Now, I'm not going to keep going on, but we were transferred to Toronto's Sick Children's Hospital, and she was watched over very carefully there. And she was there from the age of 5 until she turned 18 and became an adult and was released finally. I mean, the first 5 years were first, she had 2 surgeries. The initial biopsy, she had a second surgery to ensure clear margins. Our oncologist or her oncologist/surgeon was an expert, if anyone could be an expert in this type of a rare tumor, in this type of tumor. And he recognized that because it was malignant, it was important that he obtain clear margins, which he did, because the reoccurrence for this type of tumor was quite high, I remember. So we had regular MRIs for, I think, the first couple of years. It was every 6 months. And then it went to once a year. And then after 5 years, she stopped having MRIs. She just would go in for a physical and they would check lymph nodes, just have a conversation. So, you know how certain sounds and certain circumstances can bring memories back. Anyone who has had cancer and who has had to undergo treatment. And here's the weird thing. I had thyroid cancer exactly 1 year after her. It was not seamless. I had a lot of struggles after I had my thyroid removed, but it was so different from watching your child. So we saw a lot of things at Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children, and they save a lot of lives there. But there are some scenes that I'll never get out of my mind. Forever. They'll stay there. This is one thing. I mean, I always say this. I'm like, we all have traumas. And this is why I kind of go, I don't know if we ever truly heal from them. We compartmentalize these traumas. Let me wipe away these tears here. We compartmentalize them. We put them away. These traumas don't maybe invoke so much emotion anymore. But, there's certain sounds that I'll never forget. I'll never forget the sound of an MRI machine. And I had to have an MRI. So it's July as I'm recording this preamble. I had to have an MRI on my wrist in December. And even though it was on my wrist, I had to go in the tube. If anyone's had an MRI, you know what that's like. And even though I'm not claustrophobic, I started to, oh, like, just the sounds. I started to get tears and flashbacks of all those times that I was trying to keep my 5-year-old still in the MRI tube. So I would sit in a chair for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and it would take that long sometimes because she would move. It was in her upper body. So, if she would breathe too heavy, or, how do you tell a child that she can't move or breathe too heavy? That's only 5. So when I heard that MRI sound, it was really so it just brought me back to that time. And this is why I say, yeah, we can move on from trauma, but, you know, it's always there. It's just in a different little compartment, let's just say. So, this is my why on why I do what I do now. It all began with her. And then I had thyroid cancer a year after. And I'm like, there's got to be a purpose. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a bigger picture thing that I need to look at. And then I went back to college at 46. And, I had to work on healing myself. But whenever someone gets in touch with me, I have nothing to gain from this recording. All I can do is help someone else. And this is why this recording with the Haggerty brothers is so important to me. And I want everybody to check out GoingWell. And if you know somebody who has been diagnosed with cancer, please share this resource with them. Share this podcast recording with them. And yeah, follow these young men on their journey. Thank you.